The parliamentary business in Westminster, with his centuries-old traditions, always seems a bit theatrical. In recent days, however, Member of Parliament Natalie Elphicke has been at the center of a particularly peculiar drama that has rapidly degenerated into a political farce. And the story began with a bang. At the start of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's question time in the middle of 2 weeks ago, Elphicke crossed the House of Commons and defected from the Conservative benches to those of Labour. Such party changes are relatively rare and cause a great media stir. The Labour leader Keir Starmer described Elphicke's desertion as a sign of the disintegration of the Conservative Party. And a few days later, he also staged himself alongside his new party colleague in her constituency in Dover on the south coast of England to denounce Prime Minister Sunak's failure in the fight against boat migration across the English Channel. However, Elphicke, who's not running for re-election in the upcoming general election, is not an unknown quantity. It was not just her tough positions on migration policy that caused stomach aches for several Labour MPs. The politician's problematic statements about her former husband Charlie Elphicke, whose seat in the House of Commons she inherited in 2019 after a non-transparent process, also caused irritation, especially among Labour women. In 2020, a court convicted Charlie Elphicke of 2 sexual assaults, but he was acquitted of a 3rd rape charge. Natalie Elphicke said her ex-husband had not received a fair trial and as an attractive man was an easy target. He was being punished because he was charming, wealthy, charismatic and successful. 2 days after switching parties, Elphicke apologized for her statements at the time. And yet her story finally escalated into an affair. The Sunday Times revealed that Elphicke had intervened several times in 2020 in her former husband's case with then Justice Minister Robert Buckland. First, she demanded that the trial be moved from Southwark Crown Court in London to a less prominent court in order to move the proceedings out of the public spotlight. After the verdict, the former Tory MP again approached Buckland with a wish to improve her former husband's prison conditions. Although Elphicke disputed Buckland's account, she did not deny the meetings. The fact that a Member of Parliament intervenes with the overseer of the judiciary in a private legal matter smacks of nepotism and disregard for the separation of powers. In recent years, Keir Starmer has repeatedly denounced affairs, sex scandals and corruption in the ranks of the Tory party and portrayed himself as a guarantor of the highest standards in the public service. And this makes it all the more hypocritical that the Labour Party is reluctant to launch an investigation against its newest party member. The Conservative Party is not making a good case either. Justice Minister Buckland, for example, suddenly remembered the problematic conversation with Elphicke just a few days after her desertion. Foreign Secretary David Cameron smugly declared that Elphicke's behaviour as a Tory MP was no longer the Conservatives' problem, but Labour's. And the final act in the drama surrounding the party switch does not seem to have been written yet. Nevertheless, one can hardly blame the British public for already turning up their noses at the party political motivated double standard and turning away from the spectacle. The political mudslinging in the United Kingdom, not only because of this, but it began even before the official election campaign began. The Prime Minister gave a speech in which he supposedly addressed the national security threats to Great Britain and the risks to the country. Instead, it was a detailed criticism of Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition Labour Party. Rishi Sunak warned that the next few years could be among the most dangerous and disruptive in Britain's history, pointing to potential threats posed by countries such as Russia, Iran and North Korea, as well as technological advances such as artificial intelligence. And his main aim was to make clear that good governance is essential to protecting the country's citizens. Sunak focused on stressing the Labour Party's unreliability in maintaining national security, drawing on evidence ranging from defence spending pledges to the views of former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. The Prime Minister highlighted that Starmer had served in the shadow cabinet under Corbyn, and Corbyn was known for opposing the retention of Britain's nuclear weapons and criticising NATO. And during his time as Labour leader, he had lost 2 general elections, which focused largely on his stance on national security. Although Starmer has pushed out Corbyn over an anti-Semitism scandal, his ties to Corbyn remain damaging. With the UK facing a general election this year, Sunak is seeking to influence voters with his negative characterization of Starmer on national security. And he has not yet given an exact date for the election, but it is believed that he is trailing Starmer by double digits in the polls. And no action by Sunak appears to be changing those numbers. He has suffered humiliating defeats in local elections and the defection of a prominent MP to Labour, as I said. And Conservative sources admit that they do not really believe Starmer poses a threat to national security. Nevertheless, they believe it is fair to point out that Corbyn, Starmer's former partner, is often seen as a dangerous option for the post of Prime Minister. A former Conservative cabinet minister, David Gauke, said that since the Conservatives had governed for 14 years, it was relatively easy to blame them for all the nation's problems. Gauke argued that it would be more beneficial for Sunak to focus the election on security and question Starmer's trustworthiness than to scrutinize the past 14 years. The most efficient means of doing this is to relentlessly attack Starmer's perceived weaknesses. Starmer's weaknesses are not many, but his past ties to Corbyn are very tangible and still relevant to voters. And Gauke assured that personal attacks on Starmer are likely to escalate as the election approaches. Another controversial issue that appears to be of concern to voters is Starmer's legal experience in defending terrorists and terror suspects. The most famous example of this is advising the Islamist group Hizb ut-Tahrir in his attempt to overturn the German government's decision to ban its activities in 2008. In January, this group was declared a terrorist organization in the United Kingdom. Its members were seen shouting jihad at a pro-Gaza rally. Sunak took the opportunity to indict Starmer, stating, "I know he doesn't like to talk about them because they were his clients, but when I see a group shouting jihad on our streets, I ban them. He built them." And Starmer defended his legal role, saying, "In the legal world, particularly in criminal law, you represent people you disagree with. It is important for your legal system that everyone is represented." And he also admitted, "I was chief prosecutor for 5 years. My team and I prosecuted nearly 1 million cases every year, including terrorists, murderers, and drug dealers." While it may sound mild in the press, the fact that the Prime Minister is accusing the most likely successor of being a terrorist sympathizer unsuitable for national security is astonishing. It is shocking that Britain's former chief prosecutor, who has been awarded a knighthood, is getting his legal career questioned. But politics is a sport with high stakes, as we know, and those who are aligned with the Conservatives insist that Starmer's decision to make his legal career his selling point provides a fair ground for the debate. The Labour Party expects Sunak to become more aggressive, but is aware of the need to respond in kind, as advisors to Starmer explained, and Sunak's aggressive strategy could lead to consequences he never intended. Observers from different political backgrounds have observed his growing irritation during public questioning. One Sunak supporter commented, "He works really hard and everything keeps going wrong. This is just new for him." No one can accurately predict the exact moment the campaign will begin. In the meantime, Britain faces months of disagreement between Sunak and Starmer. While that might be entertaining for those who enjoy such arguments, it will do little to help a nation that has been mired in uncertainty and disunity for nearly 3 years now. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.